Okay, so if you watched the previous video, you would have known that I made a mistake here, which is why I was so confused like that last video. So first of all, what we have is that the marginal benefit investment, so like basically when we get this future income, we should have gotten future marginal product of capital, which means that this is all future, so MPK with the apostrophe. I made a note in the other video, just in case. And so when you equate it, it's actually 1 minus D plus MP future K all over 1 plus R. So our formula ends up becoming MP future K minus D, not MP present K. So now that we know this, I'm just waiting for the screen to go down. Okay, great. So now that we know this, so this is our new and optimal investment schedule that we're going to be using. And so because of this, if we know that our investment right now is going to increase, that means that our future, the amount of machines that we'll have in the future will increase, which means that the marginal product of those machines that we'll have in the future will fall. Because as X increases, MPX falls. Great. Now if you were to go over these things, if Z increases, then our future income increases. And if our future income increases, then, well, okay, if our future income increases, then I'm going to want to hire like more people and I'm going to want to hire more capital. Because like basically because of this increase over here, I'm going to be like, damn, like everybody's more productive. So I'm going to get more K and get more people. And since K increases, we're going to have that the future marginal product of capital increase. So because of that, R increases and R equals MP plus K, MPK minus D. So it all increases and shifts to the right. Cool. Great. Hate that it's so laggy. Second, if K itself were to increase, well, if my current K increases, we know that and see, right now it all makes sense, because I was like, why is there like this, why do we need this equation? Anyway, so if K were to increase, since future K has to do with like present K, if present K is bigger, then future K is bigger, and if future K is bigger, then future MPK will increase, so our will decrease, so our R will decrease and it shifts to the left. Funsies. And I just want to make sure that, like, sort of like guaranteed. And also, like if depreciation were to increase, obviously it's gonna fall. Like that's, and if MBK itself were to increase, then it would also increase. Like it's pretty obvious. I don't really need to go over those. Another thing is if Z were to increase, right? So the way to think of it with Z increasing is that if Z increases, if I know that the future Z is going to increase, I as a firm am not just going to be like, oh, okay, great. Like, I guess we'll have, like more production. I'm going to want to bank on that. And I'm going to want to be like, bro, like, I'm going to want to be like, I want to make more money using this. So I will hire more people and I will, get more machines because it's sort of like with the same cost, I'm getting more out of them. Because I'm a slave driver. Anyway, let's go to the thing that we should have started off with. Now we're going to the good stuff, so like the more confusing stuff, which is output supply and, oh no, how would I get to sparkle? Output supply and the labor market. So basically, in this thing, you will gonna be, like our final thing will be where we wanna write like our output supply as a function of rate. So output is how much we produce, supply is how much we produce. Output is the number of goods and the supply is how much we produce. So this is like the number of goods that are produced. Whereas the other thing, which is going to be output demand, so it would be YD instead of YS over here. It'll be what is it? It'll be output demand because it's like how much goods do people want? Like how much goods do the people want versus how much goods will the firm make? So yeah, this is basically this output supply, what output supply is. So first of all, let's go over like the basics. With N and with the wage, as basically the labor supply is increasing because with higher wages more people want to work. Labor demand is decreasing because with higher wages firms will want to hire less people, blah, blah, blah. And this isn't, remember, right now, this thing over here is labor supply, not output supply, but we'll be getting the output supply later on. So to figure that out, first we're going to start off with this, and then we're going to go over to the fact that, well, with N and the output, it's an upwards, but with like a decreasing slope because of, you know, like marginal product of labor is falling. So over here, we're just going to be like, oh, if the rate, okay, cool, whatever. Okay, this might mean, I feel like I might not be doing this like in the most explanatory way, but we just have this thing over here. We know this, and we also know this. Another thing that we sort of know is that as the rate increases, the number of employment will also increase, like labor supply will increase. Why? Because if the rate increases, the supply increases, so because the substitution effect overcoming or like being bigger than the income effect, with more savings, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'll work more. Remember the whole thing from before. So I'll work more, so our labor supply will shift to the right, so if the rate increases. So over here, in this curve over here, we see that if I get a new rate, R2, which is greater than R1, I'm going to shift my whole labor supply curve to the right, because it is how it works, because I'll want to work more. And so because there's like a lower wage and there's higher labor income. And we're just going to sort of like show that. We're just going to like sort of like replicate that in this graph over here, where so we're like, oh, look, it increases like this. If the labor supply increases by this much, and like the labor increases by this much, and again, over here, we're also going to have like the labor increasing by this much by moving along the curve. So in this case, the output Y1 actually increased to Y2. So like we're actually producing more because of this increase in the rate to R2. So if we were to put it together in a function between the rate and the output, we would say that as the output increases, the rate increases. So it's like an upward curve. This is called the aggregate supply curve. And this is basically like at so this is at each R, this is how much output leads to labor market clearing. So labor market clearing means that labor supply equals labor demand, which means that everybody that wants a job has a job. And this is because like it sort of satisfies both graph 1 and graph 2, like, but like this is at the point where it's like NS equals ND right here, and we're just like, okay, there's like more labor, blah, blah, blah. It's basically, I don't know, it's just like it's just sort of like to show that as the rate increases, the Y increases. And you might be like, why is the curve like, you know, this shape, not like this shape or whatever? And what I've learned is that for the most part, all the times, curves will always be this shaped or just sort of like, basically just like almost straight, but just with like a little hint of a curve. Except if there's something specifically saying that there's like a decreasing slope, like decreasing MPN or decreasing MPK, the slope will always look like this. So like in this case, it's like the other way around, but in all other cases, it's always gonna be like this. I don't know why the hell this curve is like this. Oh my god, whatever. Anyway, so that's that. Let's go down to some cases if my screen decides to answer me. Oh, I've scrolled way too much. Okay. Ah, why is it so much? Okay, so like sort of like a little recap is that if the rate increases, then the labor supply increases, and that leads to the Y increasing. So if the rate increases, the Y increases. Great. So now we're just going to look at like certain like conditions, like what happens if some things were to happen. So first of all, if the lifetime wealth were to decrease, that means that I'm poorer. And why did this decrease? Probably because Y decreased or like T increased. Like those are two like potential causes for this, since like the lifetime wealth is equal to like Y minus T basically. And the direct effect of the lifetime wealth decreasing is C and is currency and future C, because like this formula over here. Cool, cool. And since lifetime wealth decrease, that means that currency and future C decrease. And there's also a thing with like leisure decreasing. And why is this? Because I need to work more because I'm poor. So my labor supply will increase, but like, and my leisure will all fall. So like, I'm just basically like sadder. I'm poorer and I'm sadder as a result because I have to work more, but I also like get to consume less. And you might be like, oh wait, but if I'm working more, then can I just like, consume more again? Like I'm making up that money. And the thing is, sure, but we always want to look at sort of like direct effects are always going to be bigger than like the like subsequent whatever effects. Like straight up, when they first tell me like, man, you're going to make less money in your life. Okay, actually, I might think of working more, but the first thing that I might think of, I guess, is that damn, I can't like I won't be able to feed my family. Oh no, that's so sad. And then I might think, okay, you know what? I'll like, work more so that I can like feed my family again, blah blah blah. So, okay, actually I might whatever. We're gonna assume that I don't think like that. That I don't think first of working more. Now I first think that I unfortunately can only consume less. Maybe it's like, like a first like the first thing might be just like, oh, we'll just have like a budgeted consumption, and then if it ends up being worse, then we'll have like, like more working, which is kind of like, because sort of like a second step, I guess. We don't really want to do that. And it's not like that easy to work more, because of like fixed hours and all that stuff, and like overtime, blah, blah, blah. So like it might not increase as much, which means that my decreases and all these things will outweigh my increase in labor, which means that as a whole, don't talk, get away. So as a whole, I will be worse off. So first of all, we're gonna go through like, the three graphs that we did before with like wage and labor and the whole stuff. Well, first of all, what we know is that the labor supply is going to increase because I'm going to want to work more, so it shifts to the left. Great. So my total labor increases, and we show that also on the y to n curve, where it's moving along the curve to a new n. And this is, oh my god, why the hell did the rate increase? I don't know why that happened. Oh, right. I don't know why I put R2 over here. This should be R1 because the rate, nobody said anything about the rate increasing. So over here on this curve, we're just going to be like, well, it's the same rate, but it's just two different, it's like a higher income. So like shift to the left, shift to the right. There's like no change in the rate, so it's not like a movement along the curve. So hope that scrolls up again. Okay. The next condition, like the next situation that we're going to look at is if there were an increase in the labor productivity. First of all, the most direct effect is the fact that current income, like current production, so like the current Y will increase, since like Y equals Z times FKN and all that stuff. So that's the direct effect, which means it's going to be like it's like a bigger effect. And since it's like more production and more productive, firms are going to want to be like, damn, like I should like, make use of that higher productivity. So they will hire more workers and they'll hire more machines and all that. But the basic thing is that their labor demand will increase. So ND to ND2. So a shift in that. And like also like another like smaller effect. And again, this is like a small effect, so it's not, I guess, okay, so I don't really know like when it's like a really small effect that you don't like show on the graph and when it's like a, somewhat slight effect. So the direct effect is at this, and there's also the fact that if, like the whole world is just more productive, I might be like, oh, I'm richer, so I might like, work less and labor supply but will be small. Oh, but this is by very small because the substitution effect is greater than the income effect, so it's sort of like negligible. And also the fact it's sort of like a secondary effect, not like a direct effect, so it's like, who cares really? So in this case, the N2 increased, but also, oh my god, another thing also is the fact that our labor productivity increased, which means that this new change in curve will actually be like an increase in the actual curve, not just like a movement along the curve. So with the same N, we have a higher income. So the rate has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the income. So basically it's just movement. Just moving the curve, moving the Y to R curve to the right, this way. Great. Next. Okay, so that's just a few things there. Just like a few things to keep in mind, I guess. Next, we're going to look at output demand, which is YD, the thing that I was talking about before, like which is sort of like the opposite of YS, and the goods market. Cool. So first of all, a function that we're going to look at is the fact that y equals c plus I plus g. This is actually something that we didn't like grade. Oh, grade. in first year. So I'm pretty sure I have like a video about that, so like I can like clear that, but it's like basic stuff, whatever. Basically, the current income, it's either made up of the people's consumption, in firm investment, and the garment consumption. This is like the total demand for the goods. Like this is like how many people like want goods, whatever. So this is like the total current income. So now, oof. So first of all, this curve over here is a curve like um what is that?
I got it yesterday.
Why don't you eat it?
I did.
What is it?
It's a Bourbon chicken thing.
Is it chicken? Okay.
There's no more.
What? I literally see something on your plate. What is that? Oh my god, why would you? Anyway, tragedies. Okay, let's see. We have our Y line. Our 45-degree line. We also have like this weird like y equals c plus I plus g line. The slope is a marginal product of consumption, marginal something of consumption, I guess. MPC. You know what? You know what the thing is? So the MPC is between 0 and 1. Is that true? I think so. Marginal propensity? Wait, is it the marginal propensity to consume actually? Oh wait, no, actually no, it probably is the marginal part of consumption. I don't even know. Geez, anyway. Probably the marginal part of the consumption, current demand for income. I don't know. Well, anyway, it's like a decreasing slope like this. We also have like a y, like a 45-degree line. And this 45-degree line is sort of important because, okay, so the x-axis is the current income that we have, like how much money we have. The y-axis is how much, this is our demand for consumption. So basically, if we were to have our current demand, like our demand for goods be like worth like 5 million, but our income is like $5, like just like $5, like a $5 bill, then it's like so bad because like, yo, what the hell? Like you're spending, you don't even have that much money, right? So basically we'd want this current demand, so this y-axis, to equal the current income. And it's also the same thing like if I had like so much income, if I had like $5 million, but I was like spending it all on like a chocolate bar, that's kind of sucks. Like I should literally like spend it all, right? It's kind of dumb. So what we want is for these two things to be equal. So we have like a 45-degree line, and basically any point along that line is where we would like do like our optimal consumption kind of thing. And where we want to, which part of the line though is a point at which it meets the y equals c plus I plus g curve, so like our current demand curve. So the point at which our current demand equals current income, and it also meets the current demand curve, that is our equilibrium, blah blah blah. And that's when we want, that's where we want to like consume, that's what we want our current income and our current demand to be. Next is some things to keep in mind. So if the rate were to increase, my savings increases, which means that my current consumption would fall, which means that as the current consumption falls, our y also falls. Another change because of the increase in rate is that my investment also falls because there's like a too high interest rate and I don't want to pay like so much interest. And since there's like no change in garment spending, the total effect is that the y decreases. So it's just like a shift down of the curve. So it's like this, and then now it is like this. So it's like a shift down of the y equals I that curve. It's like we just consume at a lower point, and we have like a lower income. That is with a higher rate. And so over here we have that with a higher rate, our thingy, our output falls. So it's like a downward sloping. And so y equals c plus I plus g is our output demand, like our demand for goods. And we know that if r increases, y decreases. And you might be like, what? Because it's exactly the opposite of the other thing. The other thing was that when r increased, y also increased. So it was like an upward thing. But yeah, this is what it's like. This is for output demand. So that's a cool thing to know. So if we were to put those two together, put together output demand and output supply would be upward sloping, output demand would be downward sloping, And when those two curves meet is like the sweet spot of like how much we want to, what is it? How much we want to like output, whatever. And that's like the competitive equilibrium. Before I go into that, I'm gonna go into like some potential reasons. Potential reasons for what? Oh, right. For this curve to like shift to the right, I guess. So one reason is with an increase in G, since y equals c plus I plus G. Another thing is an increase in future. If my future income increases, that means that my total wealth increases, which means that not only will my future consumption increase, but also my current consumption. So that would also lead to an increase in the Y curve. Another thing is a decrease in tax, which is basically the decrease in tax is basically the same thing as a increase in government spending. And also decrease in tax means, again, wealth, lifetime wealth increases, so my current consumption increases. Another thing is if our total productivity were to increase, and you might be like, oh wait, but total productivity has to do with like that's like the y equals z k n that thingy, and that's like for like like labor supply, not really like demand. That's for like the supply side, not the demand side. But the thing is, with more production, what happens is like if I know that in the future these guys are going to be more productive, I'm going to be like, damn, I should like invest more in these. So as an investor, I'm going to be like, yes, I will increase my investment right now so that I'll be able to like sort of like basically double or like triple the amount of thing that I can get. So my investment increases, so because of that the total output increases. So competitive equilibrium, so as I said before, oh, we have to do the laundry. Oh, Varshney, do the next laundry, bro. Okay, so first of all, we have labor supply increasing, labor demand increasing. So this graph over here is the labor side. This graph on the right side is the output. So like it's like the good stuff and it's like the labor stuff. So we have like labor supply increasing, labor demand. We also have like the output supply and then output demand. It's like a thing of like R and the total per output, blah blah. And so for a competitive equilibrium, there are like some things that have to be like sort of like satisfied, I guess. And one of the things is like given the wage, the rate, and the income, the consumers will choose a certain consumption and leisure. Great. Another thing is given like a wage and a rate, firms will choose a labor demand and an investment to do. Now labor market clears when NS equals ND, given that there's like a wage and like an N. Aggregate feasibility basically means like can you do all the things that you want to do, which is when Y, which in this case we're going to assume is income, not like the demand, is equal to the total demand for goods. So just like the income, like the money that we have is equal to the total demand for the goods. Another thing is that things that are given are W, R, and Y, and C and L. Like these are just like things that we have. So now we're just going to look over like 3 cases that could occur with like this competitive equilibrium to like change it. So the first thing is if there was a temporary increase in government consumption. This means that it's only G that increases, but G apostrophe is the same. So first of all, if G increases, one of the things, there's sort of like two, like, we have to think of like, I think the way to do this is to see which functions they like affect first, like which functions are like more simpler, I guess, and like, like less, just like a less stuff. And the first thing that we have is that G equals T. So if G increases, then T increases, which means that the tax that people have to pay increases, which means their lifetime wealth decreases. And since lifetime wealth increases, there are 2 things that happened. One is that we consume less, and also it's that we work more and like leisure less since we want to like make up for like that loss in wealth. And so as a result, we're going to have like a labor supply increasing, and as a result of our output supply increasing, since like y equals z fkn and k is increasing. And let's see. But the thing is, these changes are sort of like small because they're like a temporary change. Remember, it's not like forever y increases just like current y. It's like a difference between like permanent and like temporary increases. So first we're going to show like a little shift in the output supply curve, also like a small shift in the in the labor supply curve, and a small shift in the output supply curve. The second effect is that y equals c plus I plus g. If G increases, Y increases. So this is like the labor demand increases. So it's like we have like this new YD curve. Another thing is that since marginal propensity to consume is less than 1, so marginal propensity to consume means like if I were to increase my income, how much more would I consume? So like if my income increased by 1 million, does that mean that today I'm gonna go and buy things for 1 million? No, it usually I'm not gonna be buying like the exact amount of my increase in wage. I might like think to save it or like consume it in the future periods and all that stuff. So since marginal propensity to consume is less than 1, with a increase in the um increase in the output it will be less than an increase in the consumption. Wait a second, I think it's supposed to be the right round. Increase in consumption. Oh, this is supposed to be wrong. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so it should be like this. The increase in the consumption is less than the increase in the output, which means that the increase in the G is going to be bigger than the increase in the consumption. Like thing is that the main thing that's changing here is the government thing right here. It's not really like people's consumption. So it's not going to be like, oh, like, you know, I consumed so much more because the government increased the spending. Like, that's kind of dumb, like, just thinking about it, right? So that's, like, something you got to think about. And so as a result, alright, so as a result, YD would increase. And this YD increases both from, like, C increasing and G increasing. But this is a big effect, and this is a small increase, like that. But it's just like both of them are increasing. That's like the point that I'm trying to say. Third is going to be the effect on the interest rate. So the interest rate, we see that it has increased from R1 to R2. Is it just R? No, never mind. From R1 to R3. It first went to R2 and then went to like down to R3 because of like the increase in the, increase in the output supply. But anyway, because the rate is bigger. Okay, hold on. Why is this? There's something about. There's something here that's important, and I'm not too sure. Like the important thing here in this curve is the fact that the movement of YD is bigger than YS, and that's the reason why this new rate, this R3, is bigger than R1. Because if this curve was more to the right, then the new rate would actually be smaller. So we sort of need to like justify the fact that this one's bigger. One thing is that YD is related to like C plus I plus G like directly, so it's like just increases by itself. Whereas YS is more like an indirect effect due to like increasing people working and all that. So it's not like that big of a deal kind of. So because of that, it's like small. So the third thing is that the rate increases, and from like our knowledge, we know that if the rate increases, our savings increases, which means we're going to work more. So there's another increase in the labor supply. So like NSR2 will be our final curve. Great. And there's like some total effects. We always want to do like the effects on like the 4 things that are in the graph. In addition, we'll also do any effects on the C and the I. In this case, let's see. I think in this case, our like I like is unchanged because it only really affects. Oh wait, actually, I don't even know. Oof. Oh wait, no, hold on. It's not unchanged because I has to do with the interest rate, and since the rate increased, I falls, which kind of sucks. Okay, and if those were to scroll down, I'd be able to go on to the next questions, but it's not. So the second one, okay, so the second one is a permanent increase in G, so both G current and G future increase. So in this case, the first effect that there is why is it not the fact? Okay, all right. So first thing is that G equals T. So since G increases, T increases, so lifetime wealth falls. Lifetime wealth falls. First of all, our workers will want to increase, so NS increases. Another thing is YS also increases, because like, Y equals Z, F, N, K, and all that stuff. Second effect. So the first effect is the effect on the wealth effect, lifetime wealth. Second one will be the effect on the labor demand. So labor demand does not change because the decrease in the consumption, what are you doing here? Get up. The decrease in the consumption is sort of equal, it's equal to the increase in government spending. No, why are you doing that? Get away. Is equal to the increase in the government because it's a permanent increase, and so it's like a big thing. So here, consumption falls, but also government falls, so it's like basically like a net effect of zero. Kind of. Sort of. Another thing is that the third effect is that the rate increases, and oh my god, the rate increases, then that affects both consumption because of the whole savings thing, and it also affects labor supply, and then it also affects our investment. So it's just like investment increases because the rate fell. Another thing is that here we have that consumption fell, and but here we have consumption rising, so it's like ambiguous. We don't really know what's going to happen to consumption. Do I get this stuff? Could I do this myself? I don't really know. I'm just gonna think, I guess, how I need like a trick to do this, you know? Okay, how about this? I don't know if I did this properly, whatever. Okay, if it is an impact on government stuff, so government is like the function with like y equals c plus I plus g, that stuff, then we're gonna do like the effect of wealth, the effect on YD, and the effect of the interest rate. That's what we're gonna be doing. I guess we'll try to figure out like a way to like put it all together. So third is a temporary increase in the current productivity. So first of all, if our current productivity is increasing, our firm will want to be like, let's hire more. So our labor demand will increase because they're more productive and will increase. So we want to hire more, and like labor demand switch to the left. And since there's like more people hired, our output supply also increases. Now, effect on income demand, output demand, well, consumption is consumption change. I mean, I don't know, it might like increase a bit because like, you know, there are more people working and like so more money and all that. So this might increase. Government will be no change. Investment will be like not really. Because thing is, it won't really be a change because investment is sort of like it's like you invest now, but then you reap the benefits later on. So it's like if our current factor productivity is big, it's not really going to matter whether I invest right now. Actually, we've invested like before. So that's, I guess, that's sort of like one thing. And like a final effect, just looking at the graph. So like this, the rate change is basically just like looking at the graph, at this graph and seeing what happens. So over here we see that the rate fell, so our labor supply falls, and it's like we'll just draw that out. And the last situation that could occur, how much more is there? It's a temporary increase in future productivity. And now, so since there's a temporary increase in future productivity, first of all, y equals zk, and that stuff increases, so our future output will increase. Another thing is that since future productivity increases, unlike the other one where we couldn't really invest, this one we can invest because, you know, we'll be able to like reap the benefits later. So our investment will fall. Our investment will rise, which means that our labor demand will rise. Another thing is like a future MPK will rise. And something that you might remember is that MPK, we have that R equals MPK minus future MPK minus D. So if MPK increases, that means that the rate will also increase. And like as a check, yes, rate has increased. So another thing is like, why are we saying that MPK increasing? Why not MPN? Because like MPN would also increase, right? The thing is like, yeah, MPN will also increase, but we want to see how we can sort of like use these to our benefit. Like, would this affect anything? Like our first, like our major thing is just that we're going to be hiring more people. Do I show that? Oh, oops, my bad. Anyway, never mind. In that case, forget that. Like how we can use these beneficially, and it's right. Okay, this thing over here, this is all current stuff, right? And if we're talking about the future productivity increasing, it's not gonna do me any benefits by increasing the number of workers I have right now. But what will be beneficial is increasing the investment so that in the future our machines will be more productive. Let's see in the previous one, let's see if there is an MPN. Yes, see? In this one over here, where it's an increase in the Z, like current Z, we looked at the labor stuff instead of the capital stuff, because here it's sort of like we want to see how it benefits us currently. And currently we can hire more and like like make use of their more productivity, whereas here we will hire more like future, like in the later periods, but this stuff we're only looking at current. So currently we're just going to increase our investment so that we'll be able to do more in the future. So that's our first thing. Our output demand will increase. And the second is that second thing is that with our labor demand, with our output demand increasing and the rate, okay, first of all, if the rate increases, that would also cause like investment to fall, but that's sort of like a smaller effect. The bigger effect is like that investment will rise. But another thing is that with the rate increasing, savings will be higher. So we will want to like work more, I guess. Like we'll want to work more and like consume less now. But before we go into that, we're going to go into the fact that with a higher output demand, it's sort of a higher lifetime wealth. Oh wait, okay. See, okay, these are small effects, so sort of like not really like doesn't really do anything, which is why I can't really think of this. I can't really understand like how this works. I think it's basically just like that there's an increase in the YD, and so like because of that, like it's just like we're just producing more. It's like becoming better as a company. Oh wait, actually no, this is like future though. I guess like in the future, right? So in the future, my wealth will increase. It's like my leisure will increase, my consumption will increase. But these are like small effects, and in the future, we don't really care about those. We only care about current effects. So we have an increase in the rate, like I said, from this graph over here. So our savings increases, so our current labor falls, so it's a shift to the left. And the final thing is that the interest, the investment. First of all, since MPK increased, investment increased, but also since the rate increased, investment fall, but it's like a small indirect effect. And we also have that C will decrease. Okay, so this is like the final thing here. I don't know why I have that C decreases. We have Y equals C plus I plus G. If Y equals C plus I plus, oh, I think I remember this. This is no change. No change. Oh, why does it do this, honestly? Whatever. Anyway, if our investment increases by a lot, if our investment increases and then our total Y increases, and as a result our rate increases, then our investment kind of falls. And to sort of like, it's like this, hold on, plus I plus G. So this rises, and so this one rises by the exact same amount, but things this one sort of falls. So at this point, it's like this guy is way bigger than this guy, right? And since there's like no change in this one, as a result, this sort of increases by like a little bit, sort of like offset this little small change. But yeah, that's sort of like the last thing. There's nothing else. Oh my god, it's 40 minutes. That's so long. I'm never gonna watch this.